Welcome to the Mindset Mentor. Each episode is a journey into the minds of successful business leaders and trailblazers, offering you a treasure trove of mentorship and wisdom, where every story inspires action and every conversation ignites change. Now, here is your navigator through the intricate world of business acumen and entrepreneurial spirit, Victor Gonzalez.
All right, we're live. Welcome to another episode of the Mindset Mentor. And today I got my brother Rob Ortiz with me. He's the owner of Grand Cash Offers, which is a real estate company that focuses on buying and selling land. Rob, thank you so much for being on this episode today, bro. I appreciate it.
Man, I'm excited. Super excited. I appreciate you having me on, man.
Man, I've been wanting to have you on for pretty much since I came across you over in Apex, man. Like, you always got a Mets hat on. We're both Mets fans, so that's like that number one thing right there. And then you're into selling land, which is something that, you know, we've spoke about in the past. I'm super interested in it, so I'm excited for this episode. But to get started, for anyone who doesn't know you that might be listening to this episode, can you give us kind of a little bit of a background on you? Where are you from originally? Where are you at now? And how did you get to this point today?
Yeah, absolutely, man. So I'm from South Florida. My mom came here from Ecuador when she was, I want to say 11 years old, 12 years old. And they moved to New York. My mom, her family moved to New York. And that's how I originally became a Mets fan, man. I've always been back and forth between New York, and I always went to ball games out there and just fell in love with being a Mets fan, man. And my dad's from Colombia. My mom's from Ecuador. Everybody was in New York. My family came down to South Florida when I was born. So we've just been in South Florida ever since. Half my family's still back there in New York. But man, I got my first job when I was 14 or 15 years old in New York, being a forklift driver. And I'm like, man, this is not it. At 15 years old, bro, I was like, this is not it. Like I was working with dudes in their 40s and 50s doing the same thing I was doing. And I'm like, this is not it. So the first thing I went and did was I was like, man, I got to figure out a better way to work because I can't do this. And I came across the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and it was all about real estate. So since 15, man, I was all about real estate. Didn't really have the guts to do anything until like 4 or 5 years ago, bro, when I really started dipping my toes into wholesaling and just learning about rentals, doing the whole thing. And man, then when I first started wholesaling, I hired this guy in Orlando named Javier, amazing guy, still one of my best friends to this day. And he's like, man, start focusing on land. And I was like, I want to do houses. Houses are sexy, man. He's like, dude, just focus on land. Dude, my first couple of deals, I think I did like over 100 grand just in deals, bro. Just flipping land. So my hustle and my drive just came from not wanting to work how everybody else worked, man. And it just brought me to where I am today, bro. And I've just always been relentless and stayed focused doing it.
Yeah, man. And that's a fucking perfect example, man, of like realizing at a very young age, like, yo, this is not where I want to be when I'm 40. You know what I mean? And nothing against, like, you know, 40-year-old forklift drivers and things like that. But when you're that young and you're doing the same job as someone who's significantly older, it means that there's a disconnect somewhere. You know what I mean? Like, at some point they haven't realized that they could do more or should do more, or there maybe have been something that's came across their lives. But the fact that you were able to catch that so early, you know, I think that might resonate with a lot of people, especially, you know, I have an audience that's mostly entrepreneurs, but I also have a lot of people following me now that are a lot younger and trying to make that leap into entrepreneurship. And a lot of people always have interest in real estate. So that's awesome, man. And I thought you were actually born and raised in New York. So the fact that you're a Mets fan from South Florida and you just happen to travel back and forth, that's even better, man. Because I grew up like right by Shea Stadium, and so my whole life is in Shea Stadium, and so that's awesome, man. So all right, so we kind of figured out what kind of inspired your start to real estate, reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad. But when it comes to the lands and those type of transactions, what would you say are like some of the unique challenges that you've faced dealing with land transactions compared to residential or commercial? Because I know you have done wholesaling and things like that in the past. What are some of the unique challenges you faced on the land side?
Yeah, absolutely, man. And yeah, so we've done multifamily deals, we've done land deals, we've done trailer deals, we've done houses, we've done apartments, we've done a lot of different deals, man, that just came across our table, and we just take the risk. We're like, let's go move it. Man, here's the thing, and I'll take a step back with it for a second. I personally like land because it's an easier transaction. Not that I want my life to be easy and take the easy way out. When we were doing a bunch of houses, man, we're doing transactions between 30 to 45 days because we have to coordinate walkthroughs between the sellers and the buyers, and we got to get inspectors in, the whole nine, GCs in, lenders in, and it was just a massive headache. Versus land, we get one person to go walk the land. We get a utility report in hand, right? A DEP report in hand, and we just send it to the buyers, and they're like, cool, send me the assignment. Easy, right? And we close in 15 to 20 days right now. The biggest challenges when it comes to land, the problem is that people don't need to sell their land. People got to sell their houses, right? We just closed on a house in Orlando or in Kissimmee maybe like a couple of weeks ago. The house was just disgusting, like probably the worst. And I could send you a video of it after. Just disgusting, man. And she had to sell that house. She's like, I need a better place to live. When it's land, people are not motivated to sell it unless they absolutely need the money or they get a really good price. That's one of the biggest struggles. So it's like you can sit here and be on the phone with the sellers, sweet talk them, run through your sales process, do the whole nine. And the seller, we literally just got off with one before we were on here. One of my closers, I was on Zoom with her, presenting them a great offer. Sellers are like, we don't really need to sell it. It'll be nice to have an extra 40,000, but if the land sits there for another 40 years, I don't really care. So that's usually our biggest issue, is that they're not really that motivated unless we give them a crazy good offer.
So how do you determine kind of like if someone's looking for a certain price or you're trying to stay within a certain number and it's not anything that's really going to kind of get them over the edge and they're sitting on that land and they're not motivated to sell it? Like, how do you overcome that outside of just like throwing extra money at it? Because at the end of the day, like, there has to be certain characteristics of the land that make it valuable to you, where you're like, man, I want this land. I know we can do something with it. So how do you kind of get them over the edge on that?
Yeah. So this is what we've learned. A lot of our sellers who sell land here in Florida actually don't even live here in Florida. A lot of them live in New York, in Canada, California, Arizona. And here's they face two big problems, the sellers, right? Number one is they're getting massive amounts of offers. So they don't even know what their land is worth. They'll get an offer for $5,000 and one for $50,000. They're like, I don't know if I take $50,000 or $5,000. I don't really know. So we always get them with the facts. We're like, hey, this is what's selling here in the area. This is the average time to close, right? 30, 60, 90 days. We spoof it all up, man, to where, they look at the actual data and then they can make a decision, right? So that's the first part. The second part is time and distance, that we call it. So time is, and this is a buyer thing. You have to get really good with your buyers. With our buyers literally wire money in maybe week of getting the agreement inside a title, right? So we're ready to go on the transaction to close it as soon as the title clears. We just closed a deal on Monday. It took us 15 days to close this deal, right? Seller, and he was a little motivated. He's trying to bring his family over from the Philippines. So he's like, I need a little bit extra money. He didn't believe we can close that fast. We closed him and he was like, that's nuts. Thing was, he lived in New York. He's like, I'm not coming to Florida to close, man. And I'm like, don't even worry about it. I'm going to send somebody to you to go sign paperwork, right? So the first one is actually feeding them the real data because they're not going to go out of their way looking for the real data. And the second one is making sure that they can get money in their bank account as fast as possible without having to leave their home. That's the two that we really get them on to motivate them to sell.
So education and convenience are your two things. That's huge. And I'm taking notes now. So if you see my head down, just I'm taking notes.
No, absolutely, brother.
So
yeah, those are the two things, man. Because if not, we do the same thing, man. Sometimes we just shoot out offers and sellers like we don't want it. But when we educate them on why the offer's that way and they see the real market data, they wake up. They wake up.
That makes perfect sense. So how do you identify and kind of evaluate like a potential piece of land as something that you want to kind of just invest into and flip or develop?
Yeah.
Or you have someone who may be interested in the development side as an investor?
So with all of our land, all we do is assign. So we don't buy them yet. We haven't even dipped our toes in developing yet. We just literally assign. But what we do is we look at them from all angles because it depends on what buyer we're going to really go into. Sometimes we have buyers that we flip the land to them and they go flip it to another builder. So we have people like that, and then we also have builders who are literally building crazy, and then we have like these long-term buyers where they're like, we're gambling on this neighborhood. We just want to buy it up. We don't care what price because we know later down the road we're going to have something go on there. So that's just that first piece. So we look at them from those three lenses. The first thing that we look at is how populated is that street, right? We'll look at the street, and if there's houses all up and down the street, we're like, okay, cool, we have something here for sure. Once we find that, then we go look at the Zillow data. And we're like, what sold here in the last 30, 60, 90 days? If we have 4, 5, 6 sold homes that were new builds on that road, this thing is going to be hot all day. But now if we go into a neighborhood and, a new construction hasn't sold there in like, a couple of months or a couple of years, we're like, this thing's going to be a little bit slower, but somebody still might pick it up. It just has to be a really good price. Right.
Yeah.
So those are kind of those are the little things that we look at on, okay, how can we present this? And then also it's how the land is positioned. Builders like the corner lots a lot. Like my builders love corner lots. Like they were like, they don't even look at the land. They're like, if it's a corner lot, just send me the assignment. Don't even present me the deal. Right. So we know that as well. But what we also do, and to make life a lot easier, we go directly to our builders and our buyers. We're like, what is it that you're looking for? Educate me so I know to educate my team and myself. So when we come across these opportunities, we know this is something for you.
Dude, that's awesome, man. I mean, that's where a lot of people kind of go wrong is they don't listen to their consumer, which your consumer on your end is the actual builder and the investor. Yep. So, I mean, they're basically going to give you all the answers of what you need to look for, and that should make the process of finding it that much easier.
Exactly.
So now that you know what your factors are for like purchasing land and things like that. Have you ever thought about kind of purchasing land to develop for yourself? Because one of the things that I've seen is like, I've seen some investors who like go after empty lots in cities and convert them into like businesses, like parking lots and things like that, where it's like, those are easy cash grabs if you're in a good city. Have you ever thought about doing anything like that yourself?
I always have, man. I just never came across, because all the land that we're doing is a lot of it's residential land, right? And they're only zoned for single family houses. We've come across a few of them at wrong prices where I'm like, I'm not even thinking about that at that price. But I just haven't. I don't think we've dialed in our marketing to come across all those types of land opportunities, because we're literally just pulling straight residential lands. But that's something my grandfather in New York, he used to buy land and he would do the same thing, convert them into parking lots and stuff like that. And I was always like, man, that's smart. I would love to do that one day, but I just haven't got the opportunity to do it yet. But bro, trust me, when we look at these opportunities, I'm always trying to look at them from all angles on what to do. So awesome. Soon.
Yeah. That's my goal, man. One day buy some land and turn a couple into some parking lots, because it's so passive. It's like you can automate that with just, maybe one attendant, just a couple machines. So cool, man.
No, that's interesting. That is an interesting perspective, because we're always trying to see, like, sometimes we'll find an owner with 2 lots side by side, and I'm like, I wonder if we could pick this up, rezone both of them to have an even bigger lot, and now somebody can have a big house, and then we could just flip it for a little bit more. So we're always looking, man. We're always looking.
Yeah, I spent like 2-3 weeks at one point on vacation with my wife in Seattle, and dude, it's like prime real estate, finding parking out there in parking lots, because they're all tied to like the hotels and the restaurants, and they're like usually lots that fit 30-40 cars. And I'm like, man, if you catch one of these next to an apartment building where there's not a lot of parking available, and you sell that as like a monthly expense, a couple $100, $200, $300 each car a month, you make a killing on that. Man,
yeah. Literally, that's like, I'm like,
I think about that. I think about it like once a week.
Now I'm thinking I'm gonna go market for those kinds of lands now.
Yeah, you're like, I got a buyer right here in front of me.
Yeah, I'm like, shoot. I'm like, this might be a good idea. Yeah. No, it's solid, man. It's really solid doing that for sure.
Can you share a success story where you've had a land investment for an investor turn out to be like super, super profitable for both you and the investor?
Oh man, all the time, bro. All the time. I'm gonna give you one of my first ones because to me it was a huge slam dunk, man. So there was this seller. It's so funny because at this time I didn't have a team, I didn't have systems, processes, nothing. Like I'm literally off of God's grace just getting these deals. He's the one that was doing the marketing for me. Seller calls me and she's like, I have this piece of land here in Kissimmee. My mom gave it to me like 30 years ago. I've never seen it. I don't want it. I don't care for it. I just want to stop paying taxes, really. So I'm like, what do you want for it? She's like, I don't even know what it's worth. I'm like, would you take 5,000 for it? She's like, sure, I'll take 5,000 for it. She signed the agreement for $5,000, man. And this was, like 4 years ago.
And this is
I'm like,
Kissimmee?
whoa. This was
It's
in
like,
Kissimmee.
oh my
Developed
God.
neighborhood. Everything was developed. And I'm like, this is crazy. So I went to go find a buyer. I was able to sell it for like 45, 50, 60,000. And I told the buyer, I'm like, listen, if we can close this thing as soon as possible, it's all yours for 35, right? And I ended up making out with 30 grand on that deal, man. And he went and put a house on it within 6 months and sold that house for almost $400,000. So his spread on it was even crazier. So that became a good friend, right? He won massively. He's like, what other deals you have at that price point? The seller definitely won. She was super happy, called me like, oh, I'm so grateful for the 5,000. And then I won as well. So, I mean, and then on top of that, once the house was built, it sold maybe in 2 or 3 months and a beautiful family's in it now. So that's always one of my favorite success stories because everybody won.
That's huge, man. I can't imagine how many other lots are sitting on kind of like that same situation where it's like someone inherited land. They don't care about it. They never been to it. They just want to get rid of it. And that's basically a lottery ticket, a winning lottery ticket sitting and waiting.
We talk about, bro, we talk to those sellers we just did one. We bought 2 pieces from the owner. I thought it was just 1 piece from the owner. And owner was like 92 years old, man. I was like, I thank God you at least know how to answer the phone. And man, we got him. We bought his land for I think like $20,000 or $30,000. Yeah, dude. And right when we went to go sign the agreement, he's like, why is only 1 land on here? And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, I have 2 pieces of land I want. I'm like, oh, I was like, can we get the other one at the same price? He's like, yeah, we closed him out. He was so happy, man. And then he sent a couple of his friends to sell us their land too. So those are in the works.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So now that you have a team, you have processes, you're getting these lands. What are some of the strategies that you guys use to kind of market these land properties effectively? And I know that on the back end, you do have a list of like buyers and investors. Mm-hmm. How long did it take you to build that list and find the right type of partners? Because I mean, it doesn't matter what industry you're in. There's always going to be some people who are fucking pain in the ass compared 100%. To others. So how do you market those lands, and how do you know like the right people to send it to? I know that, if it's corner lot, you already have your people that you know, but like how do you kind of segment that list of people that you have to market it to, so you know when you get a property that you're sending it to the right person every time?
Yeah. So, and that's not something I focus on like specifically, like who's the perfect person to send this to. I want all of my buyers to see the opportunities, because it does one thing psychologically for them. They're like, okay, this guy is consistently sending out deals, right? Maybe if we see so many deals in this area, maybe we can go into this area and buy from him. So I like to make sure I spread it to everybody. But there are certain deals, for example, corner lot deals or like 2-3 acre deals. We have certain buyers that once we see them, we do that. When I didn't have a process, dude, my whole business would stop, because I would find a deal, and that was on the acquisition side. I would immediately go to the disposition side and I pull a list of everybody who bought houses or land in the last 30 days. And I'm calling people all day long for a week until I find a buyer to actually buy that piece of land. Now we've got it dialed in where I have one person who just calls buyers all day for us, and they're just consistently adding to our list. So we get new criteria in. So we know exactly what to look for and where to go market. that's one of our strategies. We actually cold call these people, and it's still our main strategy to this day. Another one is we actually go into Facebook groups, man, of people who just want to buy land. There's a lot of Facebook groups out there. You know this stuff. And we create funnels. This is my favorite thing, man. We create funnels based on the property itself that we have under contract in order to get not the real, because it's all real data that's on the funnel. In order to get access to the address and the property documents, all that stuff, they have to put their information in, right? So product for information. And man, we build our list up crazy with funnels that way as well. And we keep bringing in our buyers through those strategies.
That's awesome, man. Do you have specific technology as kind of that middleman that helps you hold all your buyers and segment them?
Yep.
Are you using that to high level, or do you have kind of a custom, like industry specific software? How are you doing that?
So we're actually all of our emails and everything, we used to do it through MailChimp. And we used to just have it because it was so easy to use, but I just found it wasn't something that was smooth for us to use, because I want every buyer to have their own profile to where we can go list everything we've sold to them, how much money we've made with them, things like that, right? But we ended up doing it inside of our CRM that we use as a pipe drive. And we just made a whole nother section that is just all for the buyers. And from there, we literally have them segmented, like haven't bought yet, working on deals, completed 5+ deals with, completed 10+ deals with. And we have those things to where it's segmented that way. So we know exactly who we're working with and who we want to work with more.
And I think that's important for anyone who wants to get into flipping, whether it's homes or land or whatever the case may be, anything with flipping. Building out your systems on the front end is going to save you so much time on the back end, because what Rob's talking about, what you're talking about here is basically two things. Actually, if you go back a little bit more, it's about building leverage, right? Yeah. Because when you're sending out those deals to all those people, like the first thing that came to mind to me is like, yo, I'm going to send it to the people who, like, if I know I have a corner lot and I know I have people who want to buy corner lots, I'm sending it to them first because we'll move the deal quick. But when you're sending it out to everyone, you have leverage because it's like there's more people that are going to drive up that price and kind of compete.
Exactly.
And drive that price up for you. So that's leverage. You know what I mean? Yeah. But also building those systems on the back end gives you that opportunity where you're like, yo, if someone wants to move it quickly, I'm going to probably hold out on trying to get more cash out of it by sending it to everyone. I'm going to send to the people I know are going to like move this deal as quick as the seller wants to sell it. So
exactly, yeah.
having those systems in place makes a lot of sense. And if you start building that from the front end, I think, you know, when you first start, that's going to save you so much time and effort and probably money on the back end.
Man. Yeah. That's what I wish I started with, man. And anybody who, I think in any business, like obviously sales in the beginning sales is always important, but I think I could have went a lot faster if I had the proper systems when I first started, man. Like the way I used to blast out deals, I had a freaking Google Excel sheet or a Google spreadsheet. And I would literally have two windows open. I would have my Gmail open and I'll have the spreadsheet open, copy the same exact deal to like 100 different emails, man. And I'm just sitting there for an hour sending emails. So pathetic. I'm like, oh man, like we could do this so much easier.
Yeah. So, and especially now, man, there's ways that Gmail works as like an email blaster. Like I've got some trainings on it where you could just use it as like a MailChimp or as a Go High Level or SendGrid or SendFox, like where you can mass email from Gmail directly. But times have changed. But also at the same point, it's like you learned from that. You know what I mean? That's an experience that you had where it's like it was the thing that made sense. You probably didn't know any better. But now that you have gone through that experience, anyone who's listening to this who may be interested in it and in doing land flipping, like you're giving them game on what not to do because you already been through it. You know what I mean? With that being said, what advice would you give to someone who's looking to get into real estate for the first time? Like what would be like your your 3 core things you would recommend to someone looking at getting into real estate for the first time?
Oof, that's a good one. 3 things. Number 1 is don't even think about how things are going to get done. I've spent so much time trying to figure out how we're going to get something done. Here's the thing. If you have access to Facebook and Instagram and you make a post, somebody's going to know how to get it done for you. Don't worry about getting it done. Just figure out how to get the deal, figure out how to get it fast. That's the first thing, because what I used to do was I was so analytical, and that's what took me from literally 15 to like 24 getting into real estate, because I was like, how am I going to do it? I don't have the money. I don't even, nobody I know is in real estate. I don't even know how to find a deal. I don't even know what the contract looks like. And because all those thoughts and those beliefs were in my head, every year I would put it off and put it off and put it off.
Paralysis
Now,
by analysis.
it's terrible, man. It's terrible. And that robbed me for years. And now we get to a point where I'm like, it's literally who, not how. That's essentially what the number one is who, not how. Anytime I go to look to do something, I'm like, who do we need? Right? Like, we just hired 2 new closers. I'm like, we need more VAs. I go to all of my VAs. I'm like, who knows anybody who's looking to cold call? Send them to me. I'll give you a bonus for, if they come on and stay with us for more than a month. Who, not how is the first thing. Number 2, if you literally just believe that this is going to be your path for the next 36 months, you're going to win in it. The problem is I've helped a lot of people try to get into real estate, and their number one thing is they couldn't get a deal by this Friday. So they're like, this shit probably doesn't work, right? If you believe that you can be on this for 36 months or more, and you put your head down, you're going to get an immense amount of deals. That's what I always tell myself every day. I'm like, just 36 more months, 36 more months, 36 more months. Next thing you know, a year goes by, second year goes by, 30 years will go by. What I'm saying is just stay consistent and stay committed, no matter how hard it gets, because it gets hard. There's going to be times where you get no deals. There's going to be times where you get 15, 20 deals, right? Getting consistent and being committed, that's going to be number 2 for sure. And then number 3, always surround yourself with bigger players. Dude, that is like my favorite thing. Like, I speak to people every week and see what they're doing in their business. I got a buddy who's doing like $1 million a month. And I'm like, how the hell do I get there? He's like, Rob, it's just more people. He's like, more people, more marketing. And I'm like, all right, more people, more marketing. I got you, big dog. So those are the big 3, man. Who, not how. Somebody knows something and they'll teach you how to do it, or they'll get you to do it. The second one's committed and consistent. The third one's hang around big players, man. Those 3 things, if you could dial those in every single week, anybody who gets into real estate is going to be a monster.
I agree, man. And that last part is like I don't want that to go past anyone. That last part of like getting more deals. That's all it is. It's just more deals. It's that simple. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and a lot of people think it's complicated to scale a business, where they might get that 1 or 2 sales and like they feel good about it, but they're just like, how do I even get to more? I only have so much capacity to get so much more. It's like, there's always more ways to just get in front of more people. In your case, more VAs, more cold callers, more closers, whatever the case may be, right? But it's business is literally that simple. It's just getting in front of more people. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of people forget that part. They get so 100%. Wrapped up. Same way as you when you first started with the paralysis by analysis, where it's like they overthink, they overanalyze. Yeah. So going out and doing it. Go out, learn, get the experience. Go watch it. I mean, we're in fucking 2024. Just fucking put YouTube on, and you can fucking learn anything. You can learn anything on YouTube significantly quicker than you can in a college or anywhere else. You could just pull up whatever it is that you want to learn. You want to learn wholesaling? Go on YouTube. You're gonna find a million videos on how to do it. Stuff. You know what I mean? So
I'll lead a 4th point too, man, is because I wish I knew this in the beginning. It's leadership, right? And not a leadership over people, right? Because you're gonna need that as well once you build a team, but leadership over yourself. My thing is I thought I can get on the phone, make $100 a day, and I'm cool, right? Or I believe I don't need to read this book because I can go do something else. The level that you lead yourself at is the level of the results you're gonna get. So if you lead yourself at a high level, you're capable of getting high level results. But if your leadership for yourself is at a low level, where you allow excuses, you allow low standards, you allow yourself to find the easy way out, it's going to be very hard to get results, man. And I spent my first year struggling that hard because I'm like, I don't really want to call today. I might get cursed out. And I would lead myself to excuses, and I wouldn't lead myself to execution. And that would always kill me.
Dude, I love that, man. That brings me back to the last episode we just recorded. I did with Mike Kitko.
Yeah.
Also Apex. And he was talking a lot about like mindset and heart set and kind of just getting your heart and your mind in the right place to put in the work. So dude, I love that, man. That's great. And that's an extra tip too. So I asked for 3, you gave me 4, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely, bro.
So all right, so back to land. So speaking on today's market, what would you say are like some of the emerging trends in land development that like people who are into land flipping should be aware of? Or maybe some of the things that you're aware of that you're taking advantage of right now in today's landscape?
So in today's landscape, especially here in Florida, so as we all know, since COVID, Florida has been the like number one state. There, and how do I word this? There's builders popping up everywhere. Like literally, I'm talking to builders like, man, this is our first home, our first home that we're gonna build. The thing that the trends I'm starting to see is that building right now is almost more lucrative than fixing and flipping. It takes a little bit longer, right? But the spreads are crazy. I'm seeing some of my builders making with $100,000 on some of these houses, right? The trends that I'm starting to see is that building is becoming, at least maybe just because I've been in it for a little bit now, people are building nonstop, man. Like they're not worried about the economy. They're not worried about, well, what if this president gets elected or this one? They're literally like, if we can handle it, we're going to build something on it because somebody's going to buy it, right? So what we're doing to capitalize on that, and I have a VA do this. I'm a little spoiled. I have a VA go to all the county records, and they're taking a look at everybody who's buying land, right? Every single builder who's buying land. We go on the MLS, anybody who's buying land, and we're literally grabbing all those LLCs and all of those phone numbers, and we're having those conversations to see where they're going next so we can meet them there with deals, right? It's a massive thing that's going on with everybody building. I don't know if it's how it is like we're in Cape where you're at.
No,
but the thing is,
it's crazy. Santa Barbara is like one avenue down. Yeah. Once in a blue, I'll drive through it, and there's literally a strip of, I think it's like 8 or 9 homes that like one builder bought all the lots and then built 8 homes. No one's in it yet, but they built all of them consecutive, and they all have for sale signs, and it's the same exact model, same exact size, but 8 of them back to back. And I'm like, oh my God, these guys don't even need a buyer yet because they've got 8 units that they're going to move. Like they're going to get sold guaranteed in the next 3 to 4 months. Like guaranteed.
And one of my builders, what he does, the way he structures it, because obviously they're getting these houses with so much equity, they're going to put it up for sale. If it doesn't sell, they're renting it out because they have a brand new house with equity in it. Like they're just renting it out and holding on to it until it is a better time to sell it. But that's what I'm seeing a whole lot of, man, is that a lot of these builders are going to where all the action is. And if you could find out where the action's going in Florida, you're going to be able to capitalize on those deals. But you have to put the work in to go find those builders for sure. That's what I'm seeing a lot of.
That's awesome, man. That's great information for someone looking to build a team, like, and the importance of like just having a very definitive role for the people on your team also, man. So as you're building your business and you're building all these deals, how do you kind of maintain your relationships with not only your clients who may have multiple pieces of property, but they only sell you one piece of land? How do you maintain your relationships with developers and the investors to keep them happy, but also stay kind of like front of mind with them, right? Because at the end of the day, business is business and relationships are the most important part. So how do you maintain those relationships across the board?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of them, and you know this through BYM, is however much they see you. I like to add a lot of them on Facebook, and they just see what we're doing. I mean, it's not direct that we're having a conversation, and they can, we're building our relationship. They see the deals we're sending out, so that's a touch point. They see us on Facebook, that's a touch point. What I also like to do is builders who buy a lot from us, I actually give them my personal cell phone number, and we're always talking. Like I was just talking about one of my builders is in Brazil right now. And I'm like, you want to watch the Colombia and Brazil game today? He's like, no, I don't have time to. I would love to. So we get in the conversation outside of building and land and all that stuff. And we get to know each other as people. We'll go to lunch together. Whenever I make time for that, we'll go to lunch together. We'll hang out a little bit. But it's just being human, bro. And then not only that, every so often, like every couple of weeks, I always text them like, hey, are you in any new markets? Right? Is there anything I'm doing wrong that's making your business slower? Is there anything I'm doing wrong that's not efficient for you? right? What is it that I could do to become better? And I did this with one builder in Ocala, and I'll give you a quick example. In Ocala, we flip a lot of land in Ocala. And in Ocala, some of the builders only buy if they have the utility report in hand. Now, when we go to Marion County to go apply for these utility reports, they take anywhere from 10 to 15 days to come back to us. That's almost the whole due diligence period we have on our agreement. So what I started doing was I asked them, I'm like, if I got these utility reports in hand before you even signed an assignment, would that make your life easier? And they're like, absolutely. I went and hired a VA, created a whole SOP on exactly how to go apply for these utility reports. Brother, every lead that we get in our system, at the minute they enter our system, my VA is already pulling utility reports for us, whether it becomes a deal or it doesn't become a deal. Because once I go to these certain builders and I give them the utility report with price and everything, dude, the only thing they say is send me the assignment. And my builders called me one day and we were like on a three-way. It was the builder, his lender, and then myself. And he's like, I got to tell you that you probably are the best person we buy land from because you give us everything we need up front. And we don't have to think about whether what we're doing is right or wrong. We could trust you 100%. So we just want to call you and tell you thank you. Because we deal with a bunch of other deals where we're putting all this money out. The utility reports come back and these lands don't have utility. Now we have $100,000 out there sitting in title companies that now we have to fight for it back. And they're like, with you, we don't have to worry about that. You know, so it's finding out what really makes their world easier and they will love you for it, man.
Dude, I got 3 really good pieces out of that, man. Like, the first part is like, number one, and I think this is important for a lot of people to know because my network is mostly like insurance agents who own agencies. And a lot of them, when they're first starting their agency or they're smaller, they give their fucking cell phones out to every single client because they're like, I want to be that person you can reach at anytime. And then they get like 2 years into the business and they're like, these people won't leave me the fuck alone. Like, how do I transition away from giving them my cell number? Like, how do I transition them into using my business number? And I think that's so fucking important because, like, the only people that really should have your cell phone when you're running a business are the people you're doing your high value clients that, like, you cannot afford to lose them, nor should you. You know what I mean? Like, the human aspect, you could do that, giving them your business number and let them make yourself available during business hours to your clients. But if you have a super high value client who's like always taking deals, always making money, maybe they're doing higher value stuff for you. Like, you want them to have that reach out, but you don't want it to become something where it's like everyone has your number, everyone has access to you, you know, and I think that's a super important part on my side just because I see it so much with insurance agents. It's always the same conversation. Everyone gets a number. I want to be the person you could reach out to 24/7. And then a year or two later, it's like, how the fuck do I transition away from this? Because I don't want them calling me anymore. I need to get a new number now, blah, blah, blah. It's like, should have listened to me fucking 2 years ago when I told you, don't give your number out. You know? Like,
because then you get, because here's the thing, man. Like, we have a whole phone system, right? That it goes to our closers. It's the company number. It all routes to them, right? It'll route to me if I'm needed. But here's the thing. When it's my cell phone, and I've had my builders call me at 10 o'clock at night, and I pick up and like, what's going on? They're like, wow, you're awake right now? And I'm like, yeah. And bro, I've had them call me at 5 a.m. They're like, why are you up? I'm like, I'm in the gym. What can I do for you, man? He's like, can you send me the agreement for this one? I'm like, I'm in the gym sending agreements, man. Like, you know, because that's like a hotline almost. You know, so as long as that's an important, man, you got to keep that line open. Because if not, man, you're just allowing so much nonsense to come through, and it just bogs you down.
100%, man. And that's like, at the end of the day, when you're running a business, man, like, your time is your most valuable asset. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you only want it to be taken up by people who are providing value to you. And
exactly,
I love that part. The second thing that I took from that was like, the feedback from your clientele, creating a better client experience. Because that's essentially what you're doing when you're like, how can I do, what am I doing anything to slow your business down? Is there something I could be doing to do better? Right. Getting that feedback from clientele helps you craft and create a better client experience on the front end. And I'm learning that myself because I own a marketing agency. I had never been in the marketing like industry ever in my life. I learned how to market for my own agency, and then I started selling it as a service after I sold my agency, my insurance agency. And so building a marketing agency is like something completely new to me. So for me, it was like sales and produce, right?
Yeah, literally. Yeah.
You drive sales to get new clients in, and then you produce, results for your clients. But like, it took 2 years, actually 2.5 years, because I'm just starting to like completely redo my entire client experience for my clients, because the same feedback I get every time I lose a client is there was something on the client experience that we did wrong. It wasn't the results that we produced. It wasn't the sales process. It was the experience of taking the client through. And most of the time it's because I never involved the client in the process. I wanted it to be a hands-off experience for them. And because in my mind, I'm like, that's how I would want it. But it's not about me. It's about the consumer, right? Like, I just want my phone ringing with people looking for insurance quotes. But like, a lot of my clients don't want that. They want to be involved in the process. They want to know what we're doing. They want to make sure we're actually working on their accounts.
Exactly.
And I didn't know that because I never thought about that, because I had never been in this industry to know that. So I had to learn from experience. So if I would have listened to my clients a little bit earlier, asked more questions, and kind of been proactive with it, I think our business would probably be 4 times bigger than what it is right now. Not saying that we're doing bad, but like, we could have been growing a lot quicker and retaining business at a much higher clip than most marketing agencies, had I listened and created that better client experience, which we're doing now. So future clients are going to be super happy about it, because like 99% of our business now is like focusing on that client experience. So I love that. And then the last part is like adding the utility reports. That's like a value proposition that you're offering to people on the front end before you even shake hands and make a deal. And I think that's super important too, like as a differentiator from you and your competition. And a lot of people don't do that. Like I said, a lot of my comparisons are for insurance agents, because that's the industry I come from and that I market to. A lot of them think that like and here's the thing about me, I like to press people. Like, people are coming to me for coaching, or they're asking for ideas, or they're coming to me with problems and they need help. I will press you. And the first thing I usually ask is like, okay, so what's different about you from the person down the street? And the answer is always, and the answer is always the same. It's, well, I'm always available when you need me. I'm going to put the client in front of my own personal sales. All the politically correct answers that you expect that you hear every single time. And it's like, that's not a differentiator. You're not doing anything different. You know what I mean? Life insurance agents, like when I deal with them, they can never come up with an answer. They can't even, they don't even know what value they bring to a conversation. And it's like, dude, that is so destructive. You're never going to be successful. You can't even figure out how you're better than anyone else. And it's a real conversation. People have to self-reflect and really kind of figure out like, dude, I'm not good, because I can't even answer that question on what makes me different. You know what I mean? And so I love that you do that, because that's one little thing that just is such a huge differentiator, just being able to get those utility reports over to people quickly. Because like you said, most people who are flipping land don't do that for their builders and their investors. So
it's important, man. It's really, and just in general, right? Whether it's insurance, real estate, crypto, if you find what makes you different, because here's the thing, God, like, whether you believe God or you don't believe God, he made everybody very unique. Everybody has their own uniqueness. So if you find that uniqueness in you in life insurance, dude, you're going to smash the people next to you. Like, one of my things I do when I get on the phones with my sellers, I'm like, listen, I have another 300 or 400 people to go call. I'm like, whether I come to a deal with you today or not, I want to leave you in a better position, more educated than when you first picked up the phone. And they're like, wow, nobody really says that. And I'm like, yeah, because people just want to come and I was like, we call it the pump and dump. They just want to come, get your land, and leave you. I was like, we don't want to be those people. We want to leave you in a better position. And they always leave educated. And usually about 60% of the time, they actually sell their land to us because of that educational aspect. But that's our differentiator, right? Versus most people, bro, our business is very dry. Like, we're giving cash offers based on certain numbers in certain markets, and these sellers are getting, I don't know, 5 to 10 phone calls a day doing the same thing. So it's not even the numbers, it's not any of that stuff. These people don't see you, so they want to make sure that they're selling to somebody they can relate with or somebody that's going to make their life easier. And when you figure that out about yourself first, dude, you'll crush whatever you're doing.
I agree, man. Like it's and here's the thing too, like it doesn't have to be anything complicated to make yourself different. It could be something so simple as like sending out a utility report. Like when I owned my insurance agency, for me, it was like, I'm going to teach every client that I talk to how insurance rates are created. That's something that 99% of consumers who have car insurance don't know how. They never understand it. They're like, oh, my friend has the same exact car. Like, why is he paying half the price I'm paying? And so I go through every single piece of information that can lead up to how a rate, like how rates are generated, and it educates them so that they know, like, okay, well, that makes sense. I understand now why that's happening. And guess what? I want to stick with you because you're going to look out for me. You're giving me free game on how to get better at lowering my price on car insurance. No one does that. You know what I mean? Everyone's so transactional, and I just led with education, and that worked wonders for me. And that's what separates me. And that's how I get a ton of referrals. You know what I mean? It's like just from educating. Like literally, I got my license in insurance. Why don't I just use it and teach people the same things I'm learning on how they're being affected? And then they can make decisions and understand. I call it the client journey. It's like, I'm taking you on a journey with me. We're going to get your rates down together. First, I'm going to educate you on how your rates have came together. Then I'm going to show you what you need to do to bring your price down. And then I'm going to show you what I need to do on my end if you hold up your end of the bargain.
Yeah.
I need to do on my end to ensure that we bring that price down, because we're all in this together. If you want your price to go down, we're going to do it together. But we both have an interest in making this happen. And you have to be real with them. Like, yo, this is probably going to take you 2 years because of where you've been. It might take 3 years. It might take 5. But if we stick on this together, it's going to be a really good journey for you. You're going to save a lot of money, and you're going to have someone you can trust that's going to have your back. And that's huge for people, huge, especially for younger consumers, because they don't want to go through the hassle of switching insurance every 6 months.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No one wants to do that shit. So, I love that, man. I appreciate that. Now, so we talked about maintaining relationships with developers and investments and things like that. What are some of the common misconceptions that people have about buying and selling land?
Oh, that's a good one, man. Misconceptions about buying and selling land. I'll tell you what, it's gonna be hard. I know I say it's easier transactions, but that's why I say easier transactions. I don't say they're easier sales, right? The misconception, man, is that a lot of people, because what I do is I go into these land groups and I try to educate people, and I'll throw out my Calendly link, and people have calls with me all day. Like, how come you're closing like 5, 10, 15 deals a month and I can't even get one? I'm like, well, first of all, I've been doing it for a little bit longer than you have, right? People think that they can go throw a rock and that a deal's just going to come back at them, right? It's not the easiest thing in the world. And on top of that, sometimes builders are not the friendliest people because everybody's hounding them, so that always becomes tough. And then here's the thing too, even though it seems very attractive to like flip land, we've lost a lot of land deals. I could tell you about wins all day long, but I could tell you, about losses all week long. There's a big difference, right? Because a lot of land has come back that it was wetland, or they had turtle nests in them. So it starts to get a little complicated when you're dealing with it. But I mean, I feel like those are a few common misconceptions. Like, it's not the easiest thing on the planet either. And it's definitely not going to be easy if you have no leads coming in, for sure. That's what I always tell people when they ask.
And that makes sense too, man. Because obviously here in Florida, well, specifically Cape Coral, where I live, we have the largest population of nesting burrowing owls, like burrowing owls. The largest, like there's like 14,000 owls that live in Cape Coral, and I think there's like 4,000 or 5,000 across the rest of the country combined. So like 95% of that population is only in the city, and they're protected down here. So anytime that they burrow in a land that's undeveloped, there's a grant that goes out, and they reach out to the land buyers and like, we'll give you $50,000 for your plot of land to protect these owls. And so I can only imagine, like, if you happen to like come across like trying to sell that land and there's burrowing owls in there, you can't do anything until they leave.
Yep.
So
Or we get them removed, but yeah.
You can't even remove them down here. You can't remove the burrowing.
Yeah, well, with turtles, you can get them removed, but you got to pay a couple grand to like animal control, bro.
The turtles you can, the owls you can't. They're protected by the city down here, so it's like you're stuck until they decide they want to move. You're stuck.
Yeah,
and that sucks, man. Because we have someone who's we have a piece of land 2 houses down from me, and a burrowing owl just nested right in their lot. Can't do anything until they're gone. There's like 10 of them owls in there. So, and
that's just in wholesaling in general too. Like wholesaling, it looks very attractive because people throw these big checks up on the internet, like $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, and it's cool. But if you see the work that goes in behind those checks, man, it's always a lot of work.
Yeah,
so those are the big misconceptions.
And that kind of ties perfectly into my next question, which is how do you balance the risk and reward of investing in undeveloped land?
Man, that's a great question. And I'll give you a good story that just happened maybe 2 weeks ago. So we have something called a well, let me start it from the beginning before I get into all the juicy stuff. We like to see the risk of getting something under contract because you're always risking something. I personally don't like to make people mad or upset. Like I don't wake up and be like, man, I can't wait to go screw some sellers over. Some people do actually do that. I like to make sure that I know that it's like a solid deal, but then that also keeps me held back because there's a lot of deals that I didn't think were going to sell and they actually sold for more than I believed they would sell for. So what I personally do is I'm like, this is one of my sayings and I got it from a good person. You got everything to gain and nothing to lose. So when I say that to myself, we're going to take all the risk and we're going to figure it out. And if we can't figure it out, then I'm going to make sure that I apologize to the seller and we get them a little gift over to them. But what also happens is just because it's a contract doesn't mean shit, bro. People will still walk away from you. People will still do what people do. And we just had a seller the other day. We were picking up her land, I think, for like $38,000. We'll probably make like $6,000 or $7,000 on this piece of land. And she gives me a call one day. I'm in the gym. And she's like, hey, give me a call back. It's urgent. And I'm like, there's nothing urgent. We just signed a contract like a week ago. Like title's getting ran. There's nothing urgent going on. Called her. She's like, hey, I'm dropping you. I'm like, dropping me? I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, yeah, we're dropping the contract. We got a way better offer than what you gave us. So goodbye. I'm like, wait, before we hang up, I was like, are you sure you want to do that? She's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, cool. I'll hear back from you in a couple of weeks. So we have what's called a memorandum. And this protects our interest on every single agreement we put out there. So what we do is we actually get the permission from the sellers that we're allowed to file a memorandum. It's in our agreement. And on every single deal, we go file these memorandums with the counties that these deals are in. So what happens is if they leave us, they try and go sell it to somebody else. When they go run title, it's actually going to show up. It clouds the title like, hey, Robert and his people are going to buy this piece of land. You have to speak with him to get that off before you can sell it. And then from there, we have a $2,500 release fee in order to release that off their title. So we put that on every single property, and that's what protects our rewards, man.
That's genius, man. And that's just protecting your. I mean, it's a contract. Like if you're going to sign it, you gotta abide by it. And if you want to pull out, there's going to be, there's going to be a monetary amount that you're going to have to pay to get out of it. And I could imagine that offer probably wasn't worth $2,500 worth of fees on her end.
It wasn't a whole lot more than what we gave her. So she's still going to come out losing. But the thing is too, man, we treat it like baseball. And this is what I tell my team all the time. I'm like, listen, a lot of games, okay, are won on base hits. I'm like, if we could just get base hits every time, we're going to be good. I like home runs. Don't get me wrong. But here's the thing. And it literally says it on the top of our sales process, bro. We swing on every lead, right? Even if it doesn't look like a deal, if we can get a contract and we can try and go move that contract, we're going to go do it. If it's going to bring us around, we're going to go make it happen. So that's our thoughts on like risk reward. It's going to be high risk, but I know it's going to be higher reward if we make it happen.
Nice. So, all right. I know that you're on as a land flipper, you're not really putting much money into it because you're just flipping contracts, right?
Yeah.
And so my question is, what options are available for buyers on the financing side if it may be something that may be out, or maybe you're looking to purchase something for yourself? What type of financing do you usually find available for maybe someone who's just trying to buy a piece of land for themselves to flip in the future, or maybe they just want to keep it and develop it, but they might not have enough cash to buy it up front? Do you know if there are any financing options available? If so, what
Yeah.
different types are there and things like that?
Yeah, and believe it or not, a lot of people finance their lands, man. Like the land that they own, a lot of them finance it. So there's two different things, and we come across these opportunities quite often. I always try to get our buyers on them, right? Because sometimes sellers are like, yeah, well, if you could give me monthly payments, that'd be even better if we could do it at this price. We come across a lot of landowners with mortgages on their land, and the problem is that because it's not producing any kind of revenue for them and it's not producing an opportunity for them, it's more of a burden for them. So a lot of these owners are like, just take over the mortgage. Like they know about it. So you can actually take over mortgages on people's lands. You just have to find those. There's some companies who do offer mortgaging land. They just kill you on rates, which I'm like, kind of terrible. There's owners everywhere willing to let you take their mortgages over because they don't want to pay that $200-$400 a month anymore. At the same time, there's a lot of owners, and this is the good part about people not being in a rush or needing to sell their land, is you can actually get them on terms. Like I see these deals happen all the time where you could finance land over 30 years and you're paying $50 to the owner a month.
Yep.
Right. And you have a piece of land. And then if you go flip it, you can go cash the owner out if you want to. But man, it's so flexible with land on what you could do. There's even deals where we've tried executing them with sellers, but the builders are like, nah, it's a little too risky for us, to where we actually position the deals where we will get the owner and the builder, right, together. We haven't successfully done one of these yet, but I know when we do them, it's going to be a home run. And I've seen them done before. That's why I'm trying to do them now, where the builder doesn't buy the land. They just enter into agreement with the seller. They're going to build a house on it. The seller's going to get their proceeds when they sell the house. And then everything remaining, the builder will get. Right? Genius. So there's so many flexible ways to do it, man.
Awesome. Well, I got two more questions for you, and then we'll wrap this episode up, man. This has been great so far. What are some of the biggest opportunities that you see in the land real estate market over the next 5 years?
Man, I think about this all the time, man. all the time. I think, and this is as far as Florida goes, right? I don't think Florida is getting smaller in the next 5 years at all. The amount of builders that are coming in, and they're builders from all over the U.S. that are building. We used to sell land to a guy who he used to live in Mexico, right? He was just investing in land, like he was taking his money to straight land. So with land, I think it's going to be an excellent opportunity no matter where you buy it, as long as you could build on it, right? Like I wouldn't buy wetland. I wouldn't buy any of that stuff. Even some of these, 4, 5, 10, 15, 20 acre plots, they're getting scooped up and they're getting rezoned to build communities on them.
Yep.
Dude, it's sick, right? So my biggest thing is, if anybody who's interested in doing it can figure out a way to market, even if it's just mailers, right? And just stay on top of opportunities, the next 5 years, I think, is going to produce a lot of opportunity for people in land, man. Just from the building side of it. And then this is what I eventually want to get into. When you start creating those developments yourself, those are massive plays, because a lot of these builders want to get in and out. They don't want to take the time to go to county and wait for all this stuff. There's a lot of opportunity, man. Just like in houses, there's a lot of opportunity, but in land, it's so flexible.
You go from buying land to developing it. Oof, that's a lot of money in developing too. So that makes perfect sense. Finding the land though that's undeveloped that's probably the harder part. I could imagine.
I was just helping somebody in Texas find. We went and scoped out a whole neighborhood that's already zoned. It was supposed to be a hot neighborhood, I guess 20 or 30 years ago. Dude, these pieces of land are running for $3,000 a piece right now. And they just built a brand new high school right across from it. Man. Yeah, I just pulled. I'm thinking about going and talking to those people myself and see if I scoop a couple of those up for myself, because it's going to be a nice little neighborhood here soon. Yeah. So it's just staying on top, and just the biggest thing, if you want to know where the biggest opportunities with land are, follow the builders. The builders, this is where I'm trying to learn from them, is they always know where the next opportunity is. So if you stay close to the builders, you just follow them.
It's the age old saying, follow the money.
That's it, man. That's what I would say. I mean, that's what I at least see, especially here being in Florida. But here's the even bigger thing. This is my other take on it as well. Florida, and this too, prices with everything here in Florida. I mean, everywhere. Skyrocketing crazy. So being in South Florida, everybody who used to live in Miami got pushed up to where we're at right now. Everybody's where I'm at right now is getting pushed up to Port St. Lucie, Palm Bay, Orlando, Kissimmee. So everybody's getting pushed out. So here's the thing. Obviously, they're not going to build Florida in the next 5 years, but so many people I think are going to continue to get pushed out. And that's when they go into the Georgias, the North Carolinas, the Alabamas. And there is a ton of land just sitting out there waiting to be built on as well. So it's even like a longer play from what I see.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. When the big boom happened here in Florida, Naples was the first one that went from like nothing to just, that's where all the rich people went. They priced everyone out that was living in Naples already. It's crazy because like 10 years ago, Naples was basically like trailer parks. And now it's like one of the richest like zip code, like two or three of the richest zip codes in the state are in Naples. Like that's where all the billionaires live, in Naples. So they all got pushed out, and they got pushed into like Estero. Bonita Springs is super small. Estero super small. So they got pushed into there. That got filled up really quickly. Then it went to Fort Myers. Lee County is the fastest growing county in the country for like 5 years in a row. So everyone came to Fort Myers. I was living in Fort Myers. I moved in 10 years ago. So I was able to I bought my condo, not a condo, townhouse. Bought my townhouse up for like 183 or something like that.
Yeah.
And sold it for like almost 400, within
5
years of living there. And so, and then when we sold our house, we're like, all right, great, but there's nothing else available because the price of everything skyrocketing. Everyone moved out of Fort Myers and got pushed out of Fort Myers when they got priced out and moved to Cape Coral. And now I'm like, kind of like, we caught an incredible deal on this place. It was a 3-bedroom. We converted it to a 4 and got a great deal. They're building like a police station literally right on the corner of my house, like new facility. They're putting like all these projects. They're building like residential apartment buildings and movie theaters and all that. So like I came in just the right time. But now people are starting to get pushed out from like South Cape into North Cape, which is where I'm at. I'm like, bro, I can't wait to sell this place. I just moved in. Yesterday was our
wave, bro.
Yeah, yesterday was our 1 year, our first year in the house. So I'm like, man, I can't wait till this starts getting even more developed, and then we're gonna cash out on this. So, and it's funny because Georgia's definitely gonna be next.
1,000%.
I don't see very many people moving inland because Orlando's kind of. I mean, there's room in Orlando, but people are going to skip past that because it's not affordable in Orlando compared to.
It's too touristy too. My brother lives in Orlando, so I'm always back and forth. But it's so touristy over there, man.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. I mean, outside of like all the theme parks, there's nothing really else going on out there. Maybe some basketball and stuff, but I mean, so yeah, man, I agree. People are definitely going to get pushed out, and I like the whole Tennessee and Georgia. That's definitely going to be the next hot market. I mean, you already see it kind of a little bit in Tennessee, but Georgia surprisingly hasn't been talked about as like that destination where people are moving to Nashville and Tennessee and surrounding areas. So I think for you as looking into those areas, it's going to be really, really, you're going to see a lot of good things coming out of there. So
we're that's how we're building infrastructure now, man. That's our goal. Like we're just building systems that are just, we just want to push data in and just lock contracts up. That's all we want to do.
Yeah. So, all right, I got my last question, and then we'll finish this. We'll wrap this up. How do you see your business evolving in the future, and what are your long-term goals as a real estate entrepreneur?
Man, that is a great question, and I think about it often, man. I definitely want to. I want to involve my family a whole lot more. Right. So we're getting ready to build out different divisions like fixing and flipping, because our main thing right now is just wholesaling. right? Wholesaling and then a little bit of education on the side where I actually like have some mentees where I teach them wholesaling. I definitely want to start putting my hands into like every bucket. Like I want to get fix and flippings going. I definitely want to get the retail side because the retail side is undefeated, man. When you're a realtor, that's an undefeated brand. Definitely want to do that, get on the broker side as well. And then once I have all that stuff dialed in, is holding, right? Buying and holding. I haven't put a lot of energy into buying and holding. I'm partnered on some deals, but it's not my main focus, right? So it's just building the active income before we really start building the passive income. But I want it to become an all-in-one powerhouse to where we can either from land to fix and flip to retail, eventually to lending. Like that's one of my things I want to do here in the next 2 years is private lending and really start getting all that going as well. So we want to be like, it's a long-term game for me, right? I'm not somebody who I'm like, oh, wow, like Forex looks really good this month. Let me quit real estate and go to Forex. Man, this is where I'm set. This is where my feet are planted. It's just building an entire business of sales and marketing and just getting into every aspect of it and just going in and dominating, bro.
I love that, man. Well, I appreciate you hopping on the episode today, man. This was a great fucking episode. Where can the people who are listening in reach you?
Best one is Instagram, man. I got to get more on Instagram, but Instagram for sure. That's where I'm active every day, and that's at official Rob Ortiz.
Awesome. All right, man. Well, I appreciate you hopping on the episode again, man. This was great. Can't wait to have this out. And like I said, once again, thank you, man.
Absolutely, brother. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you for tuning in to the Mindset Mentor with Victor Gonzalez. We hope today's episode has fueled your passion for business and personal growth. Remember, the journey of entrepreneurship is a marathon, not a sprint. Keep cultivating that winning mindset. Seek out mentorship. And join us next time for more insights on your entrepreneurial journey. Don't forget to follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts to stay updated. Until then, keep striving for excellence and make every day count.